I've made more mistakes in my trading career than I care to count, kid. And if I'm being honest with you, those mistakes taught me far more than any victory ever could. There's a strange truth in this game. Wins make you feel smart, but mistakes make you real. They carve depth into you. They force you to look at the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. They shape you into something steadier, tougher, more aware. And when I say mistakes, I'm not talking about the little slip-ups, the mistimed entry, or the premature exit. I'm talking about the kind of mistakes that punch you so hard they rearrange the furniture inside your soul. I still remember one of my earliest catastrophes, long before I had any business trading size that mattered. I was young, full of fire and theories, the kind of kid who believed intelligence was a shield against consequences. I'd built a strategy I thought was bulletproof. It wasn't. It was a wet paper bag with confidence written all over it. But I didn't know that yet. One morning, I sized up way too big. I told myself I was taking advantage of market conditions, but the truth was uglier. I wanted to feel like a real trader. I wanted the rush. I wanted the validation. The trade went against me almost instantly. Not violently, not dramatically, just that slow, grinding kind of loss that tricks you into thinking it'll turn if you just wait long enough. I kept holding, and holding, and holding. Every tick down felt like someone pressing a thumb into my chest. My plan said I should have cut the trade 10 minutes in, but 10 minutes passed, then 20, then a full hour. I was no longer trading. I was negotiating with fear, and fear always wins when you let it into the driver's seat. When I finally closed the position, the loss was so big it felt like a personal attack. I remember staring at the screen, feeling completely hollow, like the market had reached inside me and taken something I couldn't name. That was the day I learned the first hard truth. A mistake made once is a lesson. A mistake repeated is a choice. And God knows I wasn't done making choices disguised as mistakes. A few years later came another wound, deeper than the first. I was trading earnings season, full of confidence, from a hot streak that had lasted far too long. Hot streaks are dangerous, kid. They make you think you've evolved, when really you've just been lucky in a forgiving market. I broke one of my oldest rules: never trade a company you don't understand. But greed whispered, "This one is easy money." Greed is a liar. I took the trade. The volatility hit like a hammer. My position got whipped around like a leaf in a hurricane. I froze. I panicked. I prayed to a market that doesn't take prayer requests. When it was over, I'd taken another loss big enough to make me physically sick. And that was when I realized the second hard truth. Your biggest losses won't come from bad analysis. They'll come from betraying your own rules. But the darkest mistake I ever made wasn't financial. It was emotional. There was a period in my life when trading consumed me. I stopped seeing the world outside the charts, missed dinners, missed weekends, missed moments I can't ever get back. I wasn't chasing money. I was running from myself. Trading became an escape, a distraction, a place where I could pretend I was in control, even when everything else in my life felt like it was slipping. And let me tell you, kid, markets have a way of punishing you hardest when your soul is out of balance. My decisions became reckless. My patience evaporated. I traded to fill a hole that trading could never fill. The losses piled up not because the market was cruel, but because I was lost. That chapter taught me the third hard truth. Your mental state is part of your trading strategy. Ignore it, and the market will break you. Mistakes like those leave marks. Not scars you can show someone, but scars you feel when you sit down at the desk each morning. Scars that whisper reminders, painful ones, about who you were back then. But the beautiful thing about pain is that it shapes you if you let it. Over the years, I started cataloging my mistakes, doing deep reviews, not the surface-level nonsense traders do to convince themselves they're improving. I mean real reviews, brutal ones. The kind where you look your worst habits in the eye and say, "I see you." I'd print charts and circle every place I broke my plan. I'd journal my emotions, fear spikes, ego swings, moments when I hesitated or acted too quickly. I studied my mistakes like they were mentors. And slowly, painfully, They taught me who I was when money was on the line. They taught me the patterns of my own weakness. They taught me the limits of my own courage. They taught me that losses don't define you, your response to them does. But the biggest revelation came much later. After decades of this cycle of growth and regression, I realized that mistakes aren't obstacles on the trading path. They are the trading path. Every insight I've gained, every piece of wisdom I've earned, every layer of discipline I've built came from a mistake that knocked me down hard enough to make me question whether I wanted to keep going. And every time I stood back up, I did so with a little more clarity, a little more humility, a little more strength. So when you ask me about learning from my mistakes, understand this. You don't truly learn from the market when it's kind. You learn when it claws at you, when it exposes you, when it forces you to confront the person behind the keyboard. And it's in that confrontation, kid, that you finally begin to understand that reviewing your mistakes isn't just something you do, it's something you become. And that understanding slowly grows into a kind of wisdom you can't fake, can't borrow, can't rush, a wisdom earned the way iron is forged through heat, pressure, and time. Because the truth is, kid, every mistake you make becomes a mirror, reflecting the parts of yourself you haven't mastered yet. And if you have the courage to really look into that mirror, you start to change in ways no winning streak could ever teach you. Over the years, I've sat through hundreds of review sessions, some done calmly with a cup of coffee, others done with shaking hands after a loss that felt like it was cut straight out of my confidence. But the pattern was always the same. The mistake wasn't the enemy. My denial of the mistake was, see, mistakes don't ruin traders. Ego does. Pain doesn't break. Traders' avoidance does. And the moment I stopped avoiding the truth about my own behavior, the moment I stopped pretending I was unlucky, or caught off guard, or betrayed by the setup, that was when the real growth finally began. I remember one review session in particular, late at night, after a loss that knocked the wind out of me. The room was dim, my shoulders felt heavy, and the silence was loud enough to choke me. I opened my journal, flipped to a blank page, and wrote down the trade line by line, emotion by emotion. And for the first time, I noticed something that had been there for years. I wasn't losing because my setups were bad. I was losing because I was chasing trades that didn't belong to me. Trades outside my personality. Trades outside my risk tolerance. Trades fueled by boredom, fear of missing out, or the aching need to prove something to myself. That realization hit me harder than any red candle ever could. It taught me that self-awareness is the bedrock of trading, and mistakes, painful, humiliating, unforgettable mistakes, are the chisel that carve that awareness into you. Once I understood that, my reviews changed. I stopped analyzing trades like a detective looking for clues. I started analyzing them like a surgeon studying an X-ray of his own weaknesses. And every time I found a flaw, hesitation, overconfidence, revenge trading, I didn't judge it. I studied it. I named it. I made peace with the fact that it was mine to fix. Because that's the quiet truth no one wants to hear. A trader doesn't improve by eliminating mistakes. He improves by understanding the mistakes he repeats. Over time, patterns emerged. Patterns that told me exactly who I was when pressure built. I learned that I rushed entries when I felt insecure. I learned that I hesitated when I was coming off a big loss. I learned that I oversized when I felt I needed to make up for past failures. And I learned that the market didn't punish me for being wrong. It punished me for being unaware. Once I started integrating these insights into my strategy, something beautiful happened. My trading didn't become perfect. It became authentic, aligned, honest. And that honesty made me stronger, steadier, more grounded. The wild swings and emotions softened. The revenge trades dwindled. The need to prove something faded. And little by little, I began to trust myself, not because I stopped making mistakes, but because I finally learned how to learn from them. But let me tell you the deepest truth of all, kid. Even now, decades in, with more experience than I ever imagined I'd accumulate, I still make mistakes. I still review them. I still feel that old sting sometimes. But the difference is this: mistakes no longer define me. They refine me. They sharpen me. They remind me that trading is not a game of perfection. It's a lifelong conversation between who you are and who you're trying to become. And every mistake is a sentence in that conversation. Every review is a step toward a clearer version of yourself. Every painful lesson is a quiet invitation to grow a little deeper, stand a little stronger, and trade with a little more truth than you did the day before. And if you stay long enough in this world, if you have the courage to look your mistakes in the eye instead of running from them, you'll eventually discover what I discovered after a lifetime of charting my flaws and facing my demons. That learning from your mistakes isn't just part of trading, it's the very heart of becoming the trader you were meant to be. Because at the end of the day, the market doesn't care about your victories, your potential, or your hopes. It cares about the person who shows up after the mistake. And that, kid, is where your real edge will always come from.